Welcome, friends, to Tanked Up, the podcast all about video games and beer. I'm one of your hosts, Ben, here with Lucy.
Hey, Ben.
Hey.
Friday.
It is Friday, I know. A shift in day to record just because the week is busy. Did I say what episode it is? 377. There we go. It's a date. I've started dating the episodes over on the YouTube and on our podcast pages as well. So I imagine they appear in the podcast description, only because previously, when I've just set up the last 4 episodes up onto to go up onto podcasts, and I think it's probably a good idea to put some kind of date on there. We're like, this new game that's come out, and they're like, that's like 4 weeks old. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, we can't keep up. It's impossible
I know,
these days. Like Starfield came out. This week sometime, and just like, okay, I won't get to that game ever probably.
I know, and I
haven't even seen any reactions, reviews to it. I don't know what the temperature is. I don't think it matters because it's
it's gonna do well, irrelevant of reviews and the kind of the initial discussions and things. It's one of those that people will just. It's too much of a black hole for anyone to survive its draw, its gravity, its pull. Absolutely.
So it's just people just play it. So
I'm not going to talk about it. I might talk about it next week. But I've been playing another space game.
Yeah, No Man's Sky. I saw it on your on your Discord.
I've been playing. Yes, because it
PlayStation games, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah,
yes.
So presumably you're playing it on PlayStation.
Yeah. I thought with Starfield kind of around the corner, I'm like, oh, maybe I'll dip back into it just to see what it's like. They put a big release out, which changes a bunch of stuff. And like I say, I'll talk about it properly next week. But it is consuming a lot of my time.
That's good.
So
that's good.
Yeah.
Found something that's keeping you in.
Yeah, absolutely. Only a game from 2016, 17, something like that, maybe.
Does it matter?
No,
absolutely.
Absolutely.
That seems like the other day, but it seems like so far away at the same time. Just like Space Continuum,
yeah,
don't understand it. Well,
I'm going to talk about a more recent game this evening. I mean, not that
As
recent.
am I.
It's still over a month old now.
That's hot off the press for us.
Should have spoken about a little while ago. But should we open some beers first?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, I am going to drink a beer from Wylam in dedication to Aadil, who isn't in that part of the country at the moment because he's over in Canada still. It's an IPA. It's called Envy, Not the Light. There is no flavour text, which is pretty standard for Wylam, but it's 6.2%, and it tells me that it's got Citra, Mosaic, and Simcoe in it.
Haven't they put out some new cans, or is it oh, sorry, Wylam. I was thinking of Wiper and True for some reason.
Ooh,
Bristol.
Cans.
Yeah. Or maybe just redesigns or something. Or something, right?
Yeah, they've started. So a lot of the Wiper and True cans used to just be a like an image.
Yeah.
A symbol.
I mean, they're still that, but it just looks a bit nicer.
They are. And it either was like a moth or an elephant or a wolf, a hot air balloon. And it was.
I really like their design.
A gold image on a white can, and they have expanded on that a lot more now. So the images,
like red and blue.
Yeah, they've changed the color of the images themselves. They've brought in a lot more kind of iconography and that sort of stuff, changing that up slightly. So there used to almost be a bit of a theme to them, or from what I remember, there was a bit of a theme kind of to them. And obviously certain beers have, that image associated with them. And the elephant is associated with a specific beer. The hot air balloon is associated with amber ales and stuff like that. So, but yes, they have been playing with that a little bit, which is good to see. But not tonight. It's Wylam with a bit of a odd can, but I like it nonetheless. It was very eye-catching in the fridge when I saw it. So, yeah, I haven't had a beer from them for a while, so I thought I'd grab it.
Yeah.
I will pour. What are you drinking, Lucy?
Well, we're at Code Red, Ben.
Oh, no.
The stock supplies they've dried up. They've dried up. So we're going back to the non-alcoholic beer.
Fair.
Because, well, predictably, that is literally all that's left. The ones at the very bottom of the container, the bin that I have for the beers, but they sink to the bottom.
Absolutely.
For obvious
It
reasons.
makes sense, yes.
But it is a Brulo one.
Okay.
I can't remember if I've had this one on here. I don't think I have. It is the 7 hop, 7 grain, double dry hopped IPA.
Nice.
If you can see that amongst the shadow. Obviously 0.0%. It has some flavor text. Oh god. White text on a dark green background, which you think would be easy to read, but there we go.
Nah.
Okay. No, there it is. Maybe I need bifocals. Anyway, it's only short anyway. 7 grain IPA, double dry hopped with Nelson Sauvin, Sabro, Simcoe, Azaka, Citra, Columbus, and Mosaic.
Nice. It's a lot.
So that's a 7. Yep. That is it. That's a lot of hops. Yeah. I mean, it better be as flavoursome as the one that I had last week. All these hops thrown into it. So here's hoping. We'll see.
How many Brulos have you had? Is it like the range? Not how many in total, but different beers. Because I had the kind of like the blue one, the standard one that they throw into the supermarkets a couple of days ago, and I think that was 0.5%.
Yeah, because I was surprised it says 0.0 because usually they just have to put a percentage on it. Normally 0.5 just in case, you know. I thought that was like a kind of a legal thing, but this one says 0.0%, so maybe it just truly is water. But in terms of the different ones that I've had, I've had the standard blue one. I had the one last week. This one, I think I saw this one on their website when I was looking it up, their site up last week. So I think this is it a standard one? I'll double check, but I think that would mean 3. So I think maybe 4. It's either just these 3 or 4.
Okay.
I mean, we'd have to go back into the annals of history to see what the other one was.
And obviously, that's only ones you've drunk on the podcast as well.
Yeah.
To search through that. We don't use anything like Untapped or anything as much anymore.
Not these days. Which I should, because I think I logged the one last week because it's like I like to remember.
Yeah.
I just use it. It's not even a social tool for me. It's just like a memory bank. But yeah, like if I ever see a new one, I'll pick it up because it's like I think they're the best ones that I've tasted. So.
Yeah, when we were doing many months ago now, that Dry January, I think at the time something like I can't remember which one I preferred, but like Lucky Saint was high up on that list. The lager, or is it a lager? Is it it is a lager, but is it a pilsner? I can't remember exactly what style of lager it is. But that was always quite good. Whereas when I had it at the weekend, because I had a few alcohol-free beers at the weekend, because Kim is doing a bit of a dry stint, so I sort of in solidarity didn't drink anything. The Lucky Saint wasn't tasting great. I'm
doing a 9-month dry stint, is she?
No, absolutely fucking not. 30 days she's doing. 30 days.
Okay. Just checking.
No, I think I'd have. You won't see me for months. I think if that happened, if ever again.
Ben's gone to
So
live in a cave.
yes, I've just disappeared. I'll be. You'll see a kangaroo bouncing behind me in a window or something. If that was the case, but yeah, the Lucky Sake didn't taste great. It was a bit too bitter, not in a nice kind of way. Didn't flow well with the rest of the beer. It was kind of just the residing sort of flavour. Whereas the Brulo was tasting really good. So yeah, I think you would imagine something like Lucky Saint is pretty good at its maintaining the quality of its batches. So I don't know whether it's just an old bottle or something that didn't quite sit well. But Brulo just seemed almost every time just to be very, very good quality.
Yeah, for me, I think so. But what about the one beer that has alcohol in it? There's the Wylam.
It's so incredibly light. It's not even quite straw colour. It's even lighter than that. Very, very pale. It is an IPA rather than a pale. Poured with a little bit of head, which has gone quite quickly and just left a little smattering at the top. The nose was really light. A little bit of fruit, but not much on there at all. Maybe something like maybe not even honeydew melon, but something like really light, like a really light sort of melon flavour. So that's slight sweetness, but not much else. But the flavour is very different to the nose, and it's lovely and wet. But you get that almost slightly more ripe flavour. So a little bit of earthiness. It doesn't quite have that same sort of sweetness. It's got a bit of a refreshing wetness to it. So it would be quite nice in the middle of a hot afternoon because it has that lovely initial kind of refreshing taste to it. But the flavour then just pulls and becomes a touch bitter and a little bit earthy. And I think it's much more maybe kind of edging towards grapefruit a tiny bit, not quite full-on grapefruit. There's a couple of flavours in there that are kind of pulling it back. Whether that is a bit more sort of like honeydew melon or something like that, that's just pulling slightly. But it has that, as I say, that earthy kind of bitterness to it, which again it isn't the going to modern double IPAs and being sort of a bit more vegetal, but it's getting towards that. It's kind of almost a half step in that sort of direction, which just gives it a bit more of a, I suppose, like I say, maybe just that kind of earthy flavour to it, which doesn't really, it seems like a generic term, but doesn't kind of sit anywhere almost. It's just like, there's a bit of bitterness. It's not really kind of piney. It's not sort of smoky. It's not a fruit of kind of any kind that I can pick up on. So it's very, almost a bit middling, I would say, as an initial kind of flavour. Yeah. There's nothing massive jumping out of me. There's nothing kind of crazy going on with it. It's maintaining the same kind of flavour. The first couple of sips are the same as the last couple of sips. But there's nothing massive going on. I will see how that changes as my palate acclimatises to it.
Yeah, okay. Hopefully it picks up. My beer, quite flavoursome. Got quite a fair bit going on for a non-alcoholic beer.
There's a lot in there.
That there is. And it is one of their, at least for now, mainstays on their website. So.
Okay. Very thin. It looks really thin.
Yeah, but surprisingly, it has a decent amount of body. It doesn't taste as light as it looks.
Okay.
I'd say don't think it's as crisp and refreshing as the one I had last week. This one's well, to be fair, the one last week it wasn't overly like carbonated or hoppy or anything. It was still slightly smooth. I think what's taken away a bit of refreshing and that's from this one, is it's quite bitter.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? Is that something that I need to be
Have you been invaded by
wary of?
small
I think I
creatures?
have. Yeah. We might have to pause it here for a second. Whilst I investigate. Give me a second.
Go on, investigate. For those of you watching the stream, I'll run an ad. For those of you
You
listening to the podcast, we'll
yeah,
be
and then
back
you can
instantly.
and you can vamp to the people about No Man's Sky. Yeah, I'll be
Oh,
back.
yeah. Rather than that, I could just vamp about No Man's Sky, couldn't I? You get your bug,
Do
and
that.
I'll talk about other bugs.
Okay.
Yeah, No Man's Sky. It's kind of, I don't know, because I haven't kept up with the state of the game. I haven't played it through for a while. I think I probably dropped it within the first, after 9 months after release, maybe. Stuck around for a little bit of the game. But it's just kind of grabbed me in a way nothing else sort of has recently. Especially in that sort of survival space. Not that I play a huge amount of survival games, and No Man's Sky isn't kind of that much of a survival game. It has survival mechanics to it, but it's not maybe the main thrust of the game. The main thrust of the game is still very much the idea of cataloguing, going around planets and discovering new spaces within this universe, this pre-generated or maybe it's not pre-generated. It would be insane if it was pre-generated, to be fair, because it is massive. But every time you go to a new system, I think that's when it, if no one's been there before, when it then generates what's going on kind of within that system. So load times on the PS4 are quite lengthy. Again, absolutely fine. I've got no problem with that. It's about space travel and moving between celestial bodies, and some of that takes a very long time to do it. You know, you might be a minute away, even using the sort of the warp capabilities of the ship that you've got, from moving from the planet that you're on to either a space station or another planet or a moon within that same system. But it's kind of grabbed me because of the extra bits that I didn't experience in the kind of the initial run of the game. So there's things like missions now. If you have raised your standing with certain factions and the other races in the game, then you can do missions for them. It introduces base building really early on, so that's a really good first step into getting you set up. One of the things, not that I didn't like about No Man's Sky, but I think it was a little bit difficult to pick up as a sort of a newcomer, you know, especially if you'd been playing it kind of, and you picked it up 6 months after it had released and all of the guides and discourse around it had died down. You pick it up and you're like, well, where do I start? Sure, it's told me a couple of things, but actually I'm kind of let loose in this universe, not even let loose on this world or on this island or on this continent, let loose in this universe, and I have to kind of figure things out. Whereas it tutorializes things a little bit more now, including that bit of base building, which kind of gets you set up and then lets go of your hand and says, now have at it. You've always got this space to come back to. You know, we've taken you through those steps. You don't have to run through that tutorial, say on the first planet that you're generated on, you know, the planet that you are spawned on when you start a new character. You could do a couple of bits and then pop about and say, actually, this is a much nicer environment. It's a bit more hospitable. Don't have freezing temperatures that I have to manage and you know, work out those survival mechanics. And this is where I'm now going to kind of build my base. It still gives you that freedom. You don't have to do those tutorial elements. You don't have to build the base. But it was nice to have a bit of a handhold before coming back and being let loose kind of on the world. And it's familiar as well. So having played it previously, a lot of the stuff very quickly came back to me. You know, the difference between sort of mining and what they now have as kind of land manipulation almost, where you you know, you're using your kind of your multi-tool, as they call it, to either kind of shoot enemies or gather materials and now it's lent more into having other parts of that multi-tool which do specific things like mining and all of that sort of stuff, which I think was in the original release. But it feels more expansive now as a game than it did when it kind of originally came out. I don't know how many hours into it I am. I have played a reasonable amount, but because I am going to a planet and I am cataloguing and I am saying there's 7 creatures on this planet, and I get a big if I find all 7, I catalogue all 7, I get a nice bonus to that, rather than just uploading the 6th that I found or something. So I'm spending my time actually cataloguing rather than being like, right, I've got to race to the center of the universe to do all of that sort of stuff and or experience the story as it's trying to sort of take me through. I'm kind of going, cool, the story wants me to go somewhere on this planet. Let's spend some time here, catalogue a little bit, bop about, find the settlements, learn some of the alien languages, do all of those kinds of things that was still available in the first release of the game. I'm just not being pushed necessarily along by the story, but it's there for me to have a thread to run through with as well. So the kind of the base game is still as it was. It's just now got something to kind of push you forward a little bit with. So yeah, it's so easy to play with kids. There's nothing in that game that can be misconstrued, or you can kill animals, you can kill characters, you can shoot pirates, you can shoot ships, you can do that kind of stuff. But there's no blood, nothing screams in pain really. It's
still quite cartoonish.
Absolutely, it really is. So it's very easy to just be able to put on whilst the kids are kind of playing or doing something sort of first thing. I played it at like 5:30 this morning, when the youngest was like, I'm awake because my teeth are absolutely doing my head in, so get up please. And I'm like, fine, we'll go downstairs. But no, again, I just bopped about the planet I was on, cataloguing stuff and picking up things, scanning the environment and going, oh cool, there's a relic over there, I'll go and pick that up. Or there's a pillar here and I can go and learn a new word in the language of the kind of predominant race on this planet, sort of thing. So it offers that level of exploration, but it's very much just do it kind of at your own pace. You could rush around it as much as you want. You could go, cool, this mineral is on this planet, I will mine it to the nth degree, and then this planet buy it for like an extra 10% on top of galactic prices, so I can do that kind of trade route thing with it. But I'm just like, nah, just take some photos and fucking bop about a bit, innit?
Yeah. In the editing, I think you should beep every time you say No Man's Sky. Just say Starfield. And just say, yeah, Starfield impressions.
Just later,
Probably.
I'll come back to Audacity and I'll just go Starfield and just insert that every single time I say it. Absolutely.
Like the Poochie episode.
That's exactly. I mean, Jesus Christ, how much time do I have? Not that much time.
No.
Let's talk about some other games. I assume the Crisis is Averted battle
Yes,
stations.
I live to tell. I live to tell the tale. Yeah, let me just quickly round up my thoughts on the beer.
Oh yes, yeah.
I was going to say it's not. It doesn't feel as refreshing as last week's because of there's quite a bitterness to it.
Okay.
Sort of like a bitterness that you get like from the pith of a fruit. It's not harsh bitterness. It's not like harsh acidity to it or anything like that. But it's rather bitter. Well, when you put 7 hops in it, I mean, you are going to get quite a bit of bitterness, presumably. So, but yeah, it's nice and fruity. Got like a nice lychee guava kind of smell to it. Picking up those notes in the taste as well. But yeah, it's decent. Yeah, it's pretty good. No complaints. Maybe it's because last week I hadn't had an alcohol-free beer in ages, so it very much impressed me. But
yeah,
maybe this isn't floating my boat as much as last week's, but it's still pretty good. I mean, considering I've run out of beer and it's code red, it could be complete nuclear meltdown if it wasn't for something which is as decent as this. So, yeah.
Okay, fair, good. Should we talk about some
Yeah.
games then?
Yeah, games. Or more games.
Yeah, I think we've probably both got a recentish game to talk about. Lucy, do you want to jump in first? As I've just tore our listeners' ears off about Starfield. There's the soundbite.
I'll talk about the hottest one off the press.
Oh.
Which is the new DLC for Case of the Golden Idol, which came out. Was it only yesterday that it came out? And I finished today. So,
what's this one called?
The Lemurian Vampire.
Oh.
Which will make sense if you've played the rest of the game and the lore. And Lemurian is like the race of these people. We're centered on this island or something like that. Yeah, it ties in with the other DLC. It like picks up like chronologically after that one, which are both a prequel to the main game.
I was going to ask, when is this set?
Yeah, it's set in the middle of all three.
Right.
So you've got the first DLC, then the second DLC, then the main game in chronological order. But in playing order, you'd go the main game, DLC 1, DLC 2.
Right.
And it's the last DLC they're putting out, sadly.
Okay.
So, or at least I think that's what someone on Steam community tab said.
Right.
But yeah, which is a shame because I could have had a few, new one of these every few months. But it makes sense. I mean, DLC, the attach rate for DLC and like people playing DLC is nowhere near as much as games would get if they just released a sequel. And it's like, yeah, I'd be more than happy with a sequel if they put that out in, a year's time or 2 years' time. So, yeah, it's just been a nice little treat. I had a bug in it, so because I was like, how come this isn't doing the thing? Because it was like putting these like kind of pictograms, and you had to put them like in order, and one of them had duplicated instead of having a completely different image in it. And I was like, where does this one go? It doesn't make sense. So, but yeah, just closing the game and opening it again. I think Steam did a quick little update, so that was resolved. But that added probably another hour to my playtime because I was like, I don't want to look at the guide, and eventually I just peeked at something on Steam because somebody's already got a walkthrough out because people are great, and yeah, so I was like, okay, something bugged out here. So but other than that, it's the same weird kind of circumstances and murder plots and stuff like that, and it's you're just like, okay, this definitely doesn't make sense in a real world context. And it is like some kind of logical loopholes and leaps that you have to make, but it's still really fun and fascinating. And it's just, instead of doing like, I don't know, a normal grid logic puzzle, could do this instead. So yeah, I enjoyed it. Very good.
Nice.
I think it was £4.49, and yeah, it's literally like one of the quickest purchases I've ever made. Usually, like I think about something, it's like, it's like no,
done.
Just yeah. Done.
It's like when you see that Vampire Survivors DLC. Even if you never think you're actually going to experience any of it, you're just like, yeah, 80p, that's fine. Have it. Like, maybe not quite 80p, but yeah. Yeah.
One of those.
Good.
Shall I move straight into the not so new but newish game?
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess I'm going to call it new.
It is new. It's pretty new.
Last week, or the week before, I don't know. Blasphemous II, which also probably don't need to spend much time talking about because I'm pretty early on, and it is just more Blasphemous.
Sure.
Which I'm more than happy with. I'm still the penitent one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, penitente and all that stuff and all
Mm.
this, religious imagery. I still don't know what's going on. Some weird babies crawling about on people and stuff like that, and it's just like, yeah, it's still weird and wonderful.
um, as a quick kind of lead into the second game,
hmm,
does it come straight off of where the first game finished? Because
I
I
couldn't
didn't.
tell you
Right. Okay.
because I don't understand anything that happens in those games. I think in the last game at the end, you like crawl up a mountain of salt people and turn into salt yourself, and
Right.
then in this one, you're just like resurrected out of some crypt. I mean, it looks like the exact same guy. I think that's the whole point, that these people are just clones of one another, and it's like
Right. Okay.
the same person trying to repent over and over
Mm.
again. It's like just doesn't work or something.
Did he
But
put his blood-filled hat on again? He's just like, yeah.
no, but someone did like impale themselves. The whole sword through the chest kind of. What do they call that in? Is it harikari in Japan or something like that? But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I don't think it matters. I don't. It's weird. And it's like I got this Spanish like voice acting on. I read through
Nice.
everything apart from like all the little minor little lore bits because I'm just like I just want to get back to playing the game. But
Mm.
it's like you know, I think what's different about this one is like the art in the cutscenes. I think I'm trying to recall. I think the first game was like it was still in that pixelated art style. I think in this one it's a bit more like anime looking, like
Really?
art in the cutscenes. Yeah,
Okay.
which I think I preferred the first one how they looked. I mean, it's still really beautiful and the art's great, but I think I liked like the that very. It looked more disconcerting when
Mm.
it was in that pixelated art style. Whereas the art is just a lot more clean and everything like that. But I mean, it's not a negative of the game. It's just
Mm-hmm.
something different. Um, uh, so yeah, I think that's literally the only difference that I've realized because much of it is the same. 2D side scroller Metroidvania. Obviously they've changed things in the abilities that you get. And the weapons. I think you can start with one of three weapons, but I'm not sure
Okay.
because I somehow picked up one of the weapons that I didn't pick like later on in the game, and that's like kind of unlocked a new ability, a traversal ability for me. So I don't know exactly what's
Ooh.
going on there. I don't know if that's different. Say if I picked up that particular weapon, then I would go through the game differently or have that
Hmm.
ability. I don't think so. I don't know. I think it may just be like whichever weapon you pick, it doesn't matter, and the next weapon you encounter always unlocks that ability for you.
Sure.
I'm not sure. Don't quote me on it.
I think one of
Um,
the good things about the first game was that it
mhm.
almost allowed you to sort of explore wherever you wanted to.
Mhm.
It is a Metroidvania in its sort of side-scrolling combat exploration type elements, but it doesn't
Mhm.
really close anything off
No,
ability
no.
wise in the first game. You don't need a double jump, you don't need X, Y, or Z to be able to progress through. And when I got to a point, I could either start climbing the mountain and go into the snow
Mhm.
bits, which was really fucking hard because the wind just blew you around
Yeah,
everywhere.
yeah.
Or you could go
That is pointless.
underground and do a few bits there, or you could go to the church and progress through that sort of way. It felt quite open. So it's interesting to
Yeah,
see that
yeah.
there's maybe not uh, uh, maybe the traversal abilities, or hopefully you'd think the traversal abilities still allow you to have that open nature to it. That it's not like, oh, I picked the hammer,
Yeah.
so I just can't go this way until I get something
No.
else. Perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah, as you say, you're very much right. It's more structured in terms of its like gate locking Metroidvania
Right.
style in the second game rather than the first game. First game was like, yeah, it was more of a Soulsy, like, okay, I reached the top of this tower, now I can just let the ladder down kind of thing. So
Yes,
I
yeah,
actually go
yeah.
through all of it. It was much more that than this, but I have seen things in the world where it's like, okay, I clearly don't have that ability yet,
Okay.
which is more enticing, and be like, oh, I want to come back there. I wonder what's there, but it's just dependent on, with all these games, how boring, should I say, or monotonous is the backtracking going to be. But
Yeah.
we'll see. As I say, I'm still only on. I've only just defeated the first of, I think it's four bosses. I think it's like three bosses, and they got like some guy sitting on top of them, like the henchman, like kind of three henchmen, and like the capo at the top or
Hmm.
something. So I've defeated one of the three henchmen. And yeah, it was a decently challenging boss fight. Like it took me about 5 tries, but
Okay.
I felt like so far the rest of the game is quite easy,
Right.
easier than the first. I have died a couple of times, of course, but I don't know. Is it? Am I sick? Am I getting better at these games? What's up with this?
Mate, I mean, I feel like I'm getting worse at games. Like
Oh
reaction
yeah.
times and stuff like that are just dropping off very
Mhm.
slightly.
Mhm.
I think if Blasphemous, I found a little bit difficult.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think the second one, I think I'd just be like, nope, absolutely nope. I'm just shit now. I'm just shit at games now.
I think the second one is easier, at least so far. Don't know
Mm,
what the curve is later on, and I think just giving you more weapon abilities and like all these buffs and stuff like that, I think that will make it easier and more, you know, tailorable.
okay.
Um, but yeah, I'm enjoying like the like you have this mana meter, and it's like you got this secondary ability, like one that's like a quite a you know big damage uh, effect, and one that's just like a quick one that you can spam. Obviously, the one that does big damage takes more mana, and then to get back that mana back, you have to kill more enemies, and
Right.
it slowly builds back up. But yeah, just it's sort of got like these. Gosh, which Castlevania is it? Is it like Aria of Sorrow or something like that? I think it's one of the GBA ones where it's you got like these, well, they're sort of like tablets, stone tablets
Hmm.
rather than cards, but you can like mix and match all these passive abilities,
Nice.
and so yeah, it'll be good just like tinkering with those, see what I vibe with. But yeah, it's good. I mean, it's not going to
Good.
set the world alight, but for people who liked the first game, I'm really happy so
Good.
far.
Good.
It's just, yeah, I love these games, and it's like, I think I am like sick with this Metroidvania
I mean,
because it's like I know where all the save points are going to be. Like it's like okay, I'm low on health. Okay, I know it's not going to be to the right. I know it's going to be to the left because I
mm,
looked at the map. I know where it's going to be. Or this just feels right. It's like a sixth sense, and
mm.
it's just intuition at this point. So I don't know. Maybe it's hard to tell, and I just can't tell. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean,
But yeah.
it's the kind of game that, or at least Blasphemous was the kind of game that you always wanted more of that sort of style, right? The kind
Mm,
of we don't get many games which have this like religious undertone to it, that, or at least that don't necessarily takes it seriously, but in a very I was gonna say
you're right.
cartoony,
Just
but
overt
yeah,
like
yeah,
religious because like I guess you could say like the Souls games have like religious undertone, but this is just like very overt
yes,
in your
yeah,
face kind of
very
kind of
much,
thing.
very much.
Hmm.
There was
Yeah.
that very short experience from Deconstruct Team I will never remember the name of it. Loads of deconstruct team
Yeah,
names are
there's quite a
ridiculous.
few.
But
Yeah.
that you are this like soul collector or something like that, aren't you? And
Yeah.
you're kind of wandering around. That had the same kind of religious undertone sort of to it. There's only very
Yeah,
small
and they're Spanish
experiences.
as well.
Yeah, that we yeah.
It's a
Thank you,
Spanish
just the
thing.
Spanish. But it's good that there is this continuation, that they didn't move on and do something completely different that is in a
Mhm.
completely different tone to the
Yeah,
first game.
yeah.
But in terms of it being kind of more of the same, it's kind of both a benefit and a boon, isn't it? Because
Mhm.
you could just go and play the first game. It's like £3
Mhm.
on every platform.
Mhm.
Or you could play the new one, which is, I suppose, closer to 15 or 20, something like that.
Yeah.
And maybe it doesn't quite do enough, but hopefully we'll return to it in a couple of weeks and see kind of
Oh
where
yeah.
you fall on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll keep plugging away at this.
Mm.
But yeah, I think it's nice to see, because I remember reading that the developer was like close to going under. I think
Right.
they had, gosh, was it a Kickstarter game? Which was a point and click game. Again, quite religious, quite things to do with like the occult and stuff
Mm.
like that. And I enjoyed it, but I don't think it was a big seller for them.
Hmm.
And I think it was basically ride or die on Blasphemous, and it did well, and it's good to see that. Yeah, it could have just completely gone the other way, but um, fortunately, they're still around and still making very good
Good.
games.
Good.
So, yeah,
I did just try and click on the developer
the game
on
kitchen.
Steam, the Game Kitchen, but
Oh,
it unfortunately takes you to Team 17 page because Team
right, yeah.
17 have published both
Hmm.
the first and the second game, so it doesn't take you to their page to see any other games that they have put out. So you have to do an internet search for that one, which is obviously absolutely fine, but. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, having played Rogue Legacy 2 as well, and seeing the differences between those two games and kind
Hmm.
of the improvements that
Hmm.
it's made, to see how this stacks up in that kind of way. And I think the game I'm going to talk about again is a sequel to an indie game, but that maybe is doing a very, very similar thing to
Hmm.
the first. Before I jump in, is there any sort of final thoughts on Blasphemous 2?
I just looked at their website. I remember wanting to watch this before, which is the making of the first Blasphemous
Ooh,
documentary. I think that used to be behind a paywall, maybe, I don't know.
okay,
But it's free on YouTube now, so
nice.
I will put that on my watch later list.
Perfect.
So cool. Yeah. No thoughts. More thoughts as of this time.
Yeah.
Possibly next week or the week after.
Yeah. Perfect. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I'll talk then a little bit about Oxenfree II.
Mm.
A game which I am very much enjoying. I really like the first game. The kind of it's my wheelhouse. Absolutely my wheelhouse. That kind of sci-fi kind of tone to it. That sort of almost like 80s vibe to sort of things. Oxenfree 2 builds on that, right? It's got the same kind of tone to it, but it introduces new characters. It's not necessarily a direct sequel. It's not a continuation of the story of the characters from the first game. It's set about 5 or 6 years after, and introduces new characters. But those characters are that little bit older. They're in their 30s.
Oh, I didn't
So
know
it's
that one.
it shifts from
Oh,
kind of that coming of age kind of teen story to almost the coming of age adult story. The characters are kind of a little bit, not down on their luck as such, but a little bit kind of like they floated around a bit. They haven't really stuck with anything. The main character, she's come back to the island because she's floated around and she hasn't really known what to do. It's not set on the first island. It's set on an island next to it, basically. You can see the first island in the background a lot. But it kicks straight in with the kind of sci-fi spooky vibes. those sort of paranormal elements. And it plays on the same kind of mechanics as the first game. All about radio signals, being able to tune in sort of radio signals to do things and shift through time and that kind of stuff. And it launches you into this really, really quickly. The first sequence is sort of a bop through time, or the main character kind of experiencing a few different loops of the same kind of thing. And I think it does a very good job of giving you the tone instantly, being like, this is what the game is like. It ain't going to be, this is it. If you don't enjoy the first 30 minutes of this game, you're not going to enjoy the rest of it. Check out now. Don't worry about it. Absolutely fine. But it will continue on in this kind of vein. And I think it's something that I've grasped onto more than the first game, because I'm in a bit more of a relatable position to the kind of the slightly older cast of characters, let's say, being or having been at that kind of point in life in my early 30s or like sort of mid 20s, that kind of period, being like, I'm just floating around, hanging out and doing stuff without really kind of solidifying anything in my life. Sort of like, yes, I get this, I understand completely. Oh shit, you're experiencing this, but now you're thrown into this absolutely insane, like paranormal sci-fi experience, and the characters are great because they're written really, really well. They're constantly questioning everything. They're like, did that just happen? And then they'll talk to another character, and the character's like, I've just experienced this really weird thing. And then your character will be like, I've experienced this thing. They don't elaborate on it too much. Like if you were in conversation with someone, and I think Night School Studios, I think it is, who makes the game, I think they're very good at writing conversation. Like it's one of the best things.
Night School Studios.
Yeah, it's one of the best things about the game. Like the conversations between the character feel very natural. They don't feel like it's overacted. It doesn't feel like it's kind of overwritten. It doesn't feel like it is a like let's say like a theatre performance where everything is expressed very largely and that you have to explain everything. There's lots of nuance in the writing, and it's all left a little bit to, or certain things are left to interpretation, dependent on the choice that you kind of give, the response that you give, because there is a level of choice in this. You can pick one of three responses to answer kind of questions and things like that. So I think it's very, very well written, and it is a really good sequel to the first game without being like a direct sequel.
Yeah.
So
I'm still looking for ways to play it. I don't know if you can on. I mean, they said that they were going to test streaming, but I can't. It's just a mess. It's just like, how do you even find these things? It's impossible. I've been Googling whilst you've been talking. It's just like, it's impossible. It's impossible. Impossible.
Well, impossible in what sort of way?
To find anything. I just want to be like, it says that, Netflix, as part of we're rolling out a limited beta test. This was on the 14th of August. I don't know if it's still available. I don't know where you could possibly find this. It's not in the app.
Of course it isn't.
On Google. Well, I should say the site. It's not on. I understand why they're making a Love Is Blind game now, because they're like, oh, we couldn't advertise games to the gamers. And it's like, you could have, you were just very bad at it.
Yeah.
And it is a bit of a nightmare being like, okay, let me search Into the Breach on my Apple Store, because I can't just download it, go into the app and download it from there.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just a quirk of the Apple Store, but whatever. Searching for it on the App Store, for games on the App Store, was already a nightmare. And
now you've got the added barrier in front of it.
Yeah. And it's just like, if they just made it in a much simpler way, like even, gosh, I can't even remember what the Google Cloud offering was called. What was that called again?
Stadia.
You have the control. Yes, Stadia. At least I'm sure that was like very easy, SEO, just type Google Stadia and the games were there and you knew where to go and could just easily start playing them. It just feels like there's too many barriers. And I think that's probably why it looks like they're pivoting. Like, instead of making real games for the real gamers, let's just make some App Store tat that looks.
Well,
have you seen that Love Is Blind game?
I've not seen it. I know that, there is one kind of coming out. And I think we talked about this briefly last week when we were talking about
we did.
kind of the Netflix offering. Like, I can see them putting out games like Oxenfree II, but making them available everywhere. No, maybe not everywhere, but at least on Steam, still being sort of PC playable. It's not just kind of mobile games. Whereas then, like Love Is Blind or something of that nature, maybe being tied to mobile instead of it being ported around or built as a different sort of game around from the ground up for different platforms. Because I would imagine Oxenfree 2 is on console as well. I can't see them wanting to, with it being a sequel to a game that was available everywhere, for them to lock it off on specific kind of platforms. And it's published by Netflix. Like, it's not that it just happens to be on. Netflix have brought the rights to have it on mobile as well through their app. They have published it on Steam stuff as well. So I think the strategy for that makes sense. Like, yes, here is a bigger game which is more gamey than the other stuff that we're putting out. Let's get it on everything. Let's push it, even though we might not advertise it on our platforms on mobile and that sort of stuff. And they don't really advertise games at all on their platform. It'd be interesting to see what they do with stuff going forward. And if then, hopefully they don't go the way of Stadia and be like, cool, we've bought all of these studios, or we've bought the rights to the games that the studios are making, and now we're just going to shutter it all. Sorry, here, fuck it. Like it's just happened with Volition as well.
I know.
It's absolutely nuts that a studio of 20 plus years with a bunch of games behind them, just like, nah, sorry, you're closed. Your last game was a bit middling and it wasn't very good. And
the writing was on the wall, though.
But
you knew you knew if that Saints Row didn't hit, it'd be like, well, they're getting their P45s in the post in like.
But it's insane. It's these, it's I don't know whether it's Netflix necessarily as a company, but Google Stadia, Google were very quick to drop it and just be like, cool, bye everybody. Just all of these studios that we are now funding, then we're not doing that anymore. And Embracer Group, bigger publishers who are just like, we've just got we've lost some money, we just because our same as what's happened if anyone listens to Remap Radio, which was Waypoint, which we've spoken about previously, which was a Vice podcast. If anyone's listened and kept up with the news on what kind of Vice's has done, and essentially said we've got no money, but given their executives absolutely insane bonuses and things. Like, it's that kind of skeevy sort of behavior which you sort of think, well, one CEO's salary would have paid for that studio. The bonus would have given another year's worth of salary to that team of people instead. And it's these kind of it's
disgusting.
It is, and I think it's the biggest issue with the idea that we were talking about maybe last year, 18 months ago, when the whole topic of consolidation kind of popped up. And it's so easy now for studios to kind of go, oh great, yeah, you want to buy us, absolutely, we want a big injection of cash and we want that bit of security. But in a way, if your game doesn't hit, you are potentially just for the chopping block. They can just be like, cool, we're restructuring. If we've got 10 positions open at this other studio, if 10 of your team of 60 want to come over, the rest of you, see you later. And it's just not good. So I hope there's like Night School have
yeah, I
got
hope
good
they can
protections
keep
in
making
place
it.
when they join someone like Netflix. That actually, and unionization would help this a little bit and stuff. But that they have written into
That's
their
a lot.
contracts when they're bought
Mhm.
out, like you cannot just fucking dump us.
Yeah.
Even if our game sells 3 copies, we
Yeah.
are here for at least a couple of titles.
Hmm.
And then we have the
Hmm.
option to take the name with us if you decide you don't want to have us anymore, sort of thing. So there's tons of stuff that people can do to sort of protect themselves, hopefully. But the game itself, Oxenfree II, I really enjoy.
Yeah.
As I said at
Yeah.
the start, I think I'm about. Steam says 5.8 hours, so
Oh,
I'm nearly 6 hours into it. I think it's about a 7 or 8 hour game, I would say.
okay.
I think
Okay.
I'm probably towards the final act, I would say. Well, I would imagine I am right at the end of the second act. I'm about to do kind of a task, which is the big objective. And again, another good thing about Oxenfree 2 over the first game is that the map is that little bit bigger, but it's not
Mm.
like too big. It isn't too expansive. It isn't too big. You can get where you need to go very easily, and move through the environment very easily. And you'll pick up kind of as people play the game. You have to put transmitters around the island that you're on. And I'm about to put the third. Well, it's the fourth, but it's a third of the ones that are
Right.
part of the objective. And I've got to the point where I'm just about to put it up, but I had to stop the game at that point. And I would imagine that's the end of the second act, and there's that little bit
Mm.
left towards the end, because all of the mystery is starting to unravel around why stuff is happening on the island. Characters have started to kind of spill their guts a little bit more about why stuff is happening and things. So it's all opening up quite nicely. And as I say,
Yeah.
because Night School have just seem to write conversation really, really well. It's a joy to progress that and to experience those discussions that the characters kind of have. So it's pulling me along very nicely.
I really want to play this now. I was looking at Night School's website, and that seems like the easiest place to find out where they have their games. It actually gives you the link to the Netflix, at least the Google
Mm,
Play Store link. So, but yeah, just looking at the screenshots and having a look at like little mini dioramas in that game, just like want to play it, and yeah, just the mystery and the intrigue.
yeah.
Maybe I'll just launch it on my phone and get me glasses on and squint. How big's the text?
It's big. It's quite big. So if you
Okay.
see sort of, it's very similar to the first game in that
Mm-hmm.
those kind
Text
of like
bubble.
dialogue options come up as speech bubbles, and it'll be 3 big ones around
Mm-hmm.
the character. So I
That
think it
might be
should be
doable
quite
then.
easy on a 5.5, 6 inch screen to be able
Yeah.
to
Mine's
see
like
that kind of
four
stuff.
and a half. I got the little iPhone because I'm a scrub.
Did you
Cool
ever
little scrub.
play their kind of game in between
Base
the
game? What
Oxenfree
was
games?
that?
Then they did one where it was
Party?
yes, that sounds right. After Party. It
Yeah.
was all
I
to do
should
with like
play the
drinks
novel one.
and the devil and stuff like
Yeah.
that, if I remember rightly. But I
Yeah.
never played it.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one.
Mm.
And there was a Next Stop to Nowhere, which was
Oh,
like a space, not Firefly-esque. It's way more light-hearted and
okay.
cartoonish than that. That was very buggy, but I still enjoyed it. I still enjoyed like the characters. Yeah, what they do best is like even if the game, like After Party, even if the gameplay isn't the best or the most intriguing, the characters and
Mm.
the uh, just the dialogue in between them and the interpersonal connections all these characters have is just it's top notch.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And that Mr. Robot game, I was thinking of rewatching that because I don't remember. Like I own it on like iTunes for some reason. It's just like I don't. I was like, oh yeah, and I don't remember anything about that show, so I might rewatch that. and then play the nice, cool Mr. Robot game. But yeah. Gosh, I've played all their games apart from Oxenfree II then, and the Mr. Robot game.
I had no idea they made a Mr. Robot game. I don't think I finished that series. I think I watched the first season and some of the second, but maybe never actually finished it out.
Yeah, I don't think I watched the second series.
Mm.
Well, that would be interesting to play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, After Party was on Game Pass. So that's how I played it. Oh, and that Next Stop Nowhere was that before they were acquired by Netflix? Because that was on Apple Arcade.
Oh, I would imagine maybe an Apple Arcade exclusive.
Yeah, because I'll go back to their site.
Yeah, I've just typed in Next Stop on Steam, and there is nothing.
Yeah, it's Apple Arcade only. Yeah, as I say, buggy as hell, but I really enjoyed it. Yeah, the voice acting in their games are always great.
Oh, absolutely. It's one thing for Oxenfree II as well. The voice acting is really, really good.
Yeah.
Again, it's those characters that sort of pull you along through it, definitely.
Yeah.
And you want to know more about them. You want to experience the story with them. You want to follow them through and see kind of how their story pans out. And again, it isn't, the story is interesting in Oxenfree 2 because it's both the character that you're playing story, but also not quite the antagonist, but it's still kind of like their story as well, or at least the things that you're doing impact on their kind of story as you're running through, and you get both of these, you experience both of these as the game kind of progresses. So it's interesting that they've kind of got this kind of, your character is actually the story you're experiencing for your character that you're playing, the decisions you're making are impacting on this other character quite heavily, and it's actually her story which is maybe a little bit more interesting, and what that character's experience and what that character's trying to do that you're then having this kind of impact on. So there's this nice duality between these two sort of characters and the experiences that they're having through this game that kind of not necessarily battle with each other, but at least the point that I've got, it is very much a protagonist and an antagonist kind of relationship between them.
Interesting, because in the first game it's literally just the ghosties, and it's like they're just very ethereal, and they don't necessarily have a voice, and they're just messing with you through the radio. So that's interesting that it has that kind of dichotomy in the second game.
Yeah, very much.
I'm literally like going to the App Store and do I download Netflix? No, I download the game.
Download the
Netflix
game. Yes.
Yes. So you've got me in the mood for Oxenfree.
Good. As I hope I've got lots of people, because it is very good. It's very, very well made. It looks a little bit better than the first game again, but that's maybe more because technology has moved on. It's a very similar kind of style, but there's maybe just a little bit more going on the screen with the second game than there is with the first. Animations are maybe just a little bit smoother as well, that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's really, really similar in its in both its tone and its aesthetic to the first game. So yeah, big thumbs up from me. I'd imagine I've got about an hour left or something like that. So maybe I'll report back next week to let you know if it's sort of stuck the landing.
I'm just hoping it will work with. Oh, God, see, this is so dumb because I don't even know if it's going to work with like a Bluetooth controller.
Ooh, I don't know. I am using the Stadia controller on PC, but that's PC.
That's a reasonable platform.
Yeah.
That isn't Netflix and the worst of closed gardens, Apple. You're having to contend with. So
try and connect your Google Stadia control pad to your Apple iPhone and see how well you get on.
I'll just end up getting so frustrated and just probably just ended up buying it on Steam. That's probably what's gonna happen.
I will, as a final point this week, before we jump back into beers, just mention I finished Somerville. I finished it the morning after we discussed it, so I was really close to the end when we were talking about it. And I said very foolishly, I'll just experience the end of the game, and I won't look at all of the different endings that you can get, because I really disliked the ending that I got. I'm like, nope, don't want that as my ending for the characters. And unfortunately, the decision on what ending you get comes down to essentially the last puzzle of the game, and the way that you respond. You would have no idea. You would have no idea. It's really, really difficult to see and know what to kind of get. And the ending that I wanted, like the way that I wanted that story to finish, was the most convoluted and difficult to go through. So it's the game was I really enjoyed it, but that kind of just pulls it down very slightly. You know, there isn't impact. Very much. But what didn't leave a bad taste in my mouth, what opened up more as I drank it, was the beer this evening. Envy Not the Light from Wylam. It opened up a lot more as I drank, and I'm getting definitely grapefruit. That pushes through a little bit more, but maybe the sweetness is a little bit orange. I feel like I'm getting maybe orange, and a very sweet kind of orange. I don't know if it's blood orange or something like that, but it's a really sort of, it's very sweet, but tied in with that grapefruit, it makes it feel like it's maybe a little bit more bitter, like a blood orange, rather than like a clementine or something like that. But it opened up that little bit more. That sweetness led very nicely into sort of the bitterness, rather than it just being, this is kind of a bit of a middling sort of bitterness. It just kind of presented itself more and more, and those flavors just opened more and more as I drank it. So it's actually really nice. So the second half is much better than the first half. I don't know what's impacted on that. I did have a beer earlier.
Could be temperature.
It could be temperature. I had a beer earlier, but that was at least an hour and a half ago. I don't have a date on this, so I can't tell you kind of when it was brewed, how old it is, or anything like that. But yeah, actually very enjoyable.
Good.
And the Brulo, Lucy, obviously was very flavourful when you first cracked it. How is it now?
Yeah. I think mine has gone the opposite direction of you, and only slightly tapered down. I think it's maybe, I wish the bitterness, like that kind of piffy, I guess that's a completely different one, that piff-like bitterness, I wish that merged with like the sweetness that this has got in it a bit more. They feel quite distinct. And I think it is quite sweet, because like after I finish it, it's like I can just feel a little bit of sugar on my teeth, and it's like a little bit maybe sweeter than I like, and it's like, but at the same time, it's got that bitterness, and I just think those should harmonize a bit better. But otherwise, it was decent. As I say, like, not. The fact that I'm measuring this up against like what I want from a normal beer is, to be honest, nothing but praise. For,
absolutely.
Like, how much I, esteem these non-alcoholic beers. Because I mean, harking all the way back to January, which feels like yesterday, but 8 months ago. There were some no-nos in that pile, so
absolutely.
Yeah, these are good. These are good. I think last week's was more enjoyable, but it's not like this was pour down the sink kind of beer.
Sure.
Nowhere near. So yeah, very good. Very good.
It would be nice to see Brulo getting into the, say, like the supermarket that little bit more, because actually the sort of the alcohol-free ranges, at least in Morrison's, or the Morrison's near me, is quite sort of pitiful.
Yeah, it's
There's
mega.
maybe like 5 or 6 beers. 4 of them are Brewdog
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
Maybe
I've
not
only ever
quite
seen
that.
like
You know.
1 or 2 different Mash Gang ones in there.
Yes, yeah. I think there's a Northern Monk beer. There's several kind of Brewdog beers, but then there's one Brulo. There's the Lucky Saint. And then there's the branded the big boy.
Yeah,
Big macro
which I
kind of
will not
beers,
go
the
near.
alcohol-free ones. Yeah, and I've
Those
never.
have to taste awful.
It's one of those. Someone always says that alcohol-free Guinness tastes almost exactly the same. I've never tried it. I don't know. That's come from someone else. I always kind of think,
Let's give it a
want
go.
the experiment, but you can only buy it in like a 4-pack. I don't want 4 of them. I just want one. Just to
Yeah,
see what it's
I just
like.
want.
You know, I don't want.
Yeah,
I
there's
don't
no
want
point me
4.
pouring the other 3 down the sink if I don't like them.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Listener, if you have had good alcohol-free beers, including the Guinness, and you want to tell us what you think about it, you can at Tanked Upcast on the socials. You can go to outoflives.net, which is now working again. Hooray! And Aadil managed to sort out all of the technical snafus that we were experiencing. So the podcast is going up again on your podcast service of choice. So if you would very kindly rate and review us on that, that's really, really helpful in getting us out to more people. If you're one of those people who watch us on YouTube, we've been there for the last month. Only just, but we have been there, and you can go to the Out of Lives page over there as well, or come and watch us usually every Thursday, but this week Friday on Twitch, and that's Out of Lives Network as well. I'm at Nova_47. Lucy is
Juicy Loose 9.
And you can hit either of us up to get a link to the Discord as well, and come and chat to us about beer and games whenever you fancy. I think that's all the places, that's the beers, that's the games. Lucy, do you have any final thoughts this week? Anything to sign us out with?
You best start downloading Starfield from there, because that is a 100 gig download.
Wow, is it?
Yeah, I've downloaded mine over the course of a few days.
Right.
Only to be probably uninstalled when it's like, hold on, I have no space. What haven't I played? No. And there's no way I'm deleting Hitman 3 off my card.
No. Or instantly uninstalled when you get into the game and no one's got a face.
Yeah. And it's like, the patch isn't released for me, and it's like, what do I do? It's like uninstall. And yeah, I think that happened with no, the worst was gosh, what it's called, Microsoft Flight Simulator on my PC. That was arduous,
Yeah,
to say the least, because that was 100 gig.
Well,
But Xbox downloads are pretty good, so
Yeah.
it's like pretty cool. So,
yeah.
yeah.
And I would imagine it's maybe slightly more optimized for Xbox as well, so you might not experience quite as many bugs as I've seen coming out over the last sort of few hours that people have been experiencing.
I want to see the GIFs and the compilations. Oh, I love it. I love a buggy Bethesda game. Something so quaint about them.
I mean, Bethesda is Bethesda, isn't it? So, you kind of know what you're going to be getting into with their big releases.
Brilliant. I don't want a patch. I want the broken version. I want the no-face run. That's what I want.
Every single character, just eyes floating in the air. I mean, it adds to it, doesn't it? It's like, well, it's not people, it's just aliens. It's all alien. It's all an alien race. It's in space, right? It's all an alien race. They're just eyes. Eyes with like suits of, space suits and shit like that. But yeah, return to us maybe next week to hear some initial thoughts about Starfield if Lucy's download has all gone well and it's all patched and ready to play over the next few days.
I think it's only early access people get it. Because I was like, when does it come out? And they were like, was it the 6th or 7th for everybody else?
Is it? It's next week? Oh, I thought it was today.
Apparently for early access.
Okay, fine.
If you bought the game, which is probably hundreds and thousands and millions of people.
Sure.
Yeah, but I'm playing it for free on Xbox.
Interesting that they've started doing that. It's almost a timed kind of, or as you say, early access if you want to purchase the game, or everyone on Game Pass gets it that week later. It's not day and date anymore then.
I guess not technically. They've definitely done it for other games. I'm sure
Yeah.
they've done it for Forzas, maybe
Yeah.
Gears, maybe Halo. So I think it's been around for quite some time. But I mean, I don't think anyone's complaining. It's like buy the game or get it for free a few days later.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer for some people.
Would you like to play game for free? Yes. Then please
Yes.
wait 1 moment. Like, okay,
Yeah.
fine.
6 days is not a lot in the space of anything.
How much opportunity
Yeah.
do you get to play games in 6 days anyway? Like maybe 3 times. It's fine.
Yeah.
I can wait.
Yeah.
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 Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Some people are like dead excited for it. I understand it. Like people take time off work and stuff like that. I completely get that. You know, especially for a big tentpole game like this. So it's like completely understand. But for me, yeah, I'll just wait.
Yeah. Fair. Fair.
Yeah.
Good. So that is us this week. Thank you very much for joining us. We've been Tanked Up, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Ciao.
www.outoflives.net